Hey everyone, happy Monday. So I'm actually just in the middle between classes here. First one of the semester ended a little early. It felt like a lot of information. So this is like the start of our pharmacy products class, which is the prescription products version of that. And just a lot of information. It's going to be a lot of memorization. And it's going to be a little bit helpful to have pharmacy experience for this course because I can picture what we're talking about. There's some medications where I struggle with what they're used for, even still, because I just haven't had the experience with them. Routine wasn't that hard this morning. I've been working for the last period of time, so it's not like I had gotten into a really late routine or anything, and I really can't anymore. I'm definitely more of a morning person. It's just my brain needs so long after I wake up in order to like be able to think, particularly with math. I don't know what that is, but it is that way. I'm taking a little bit of a break. I really do think I want to add in my meditation spot in here though, because like if this happens, it doesn't happen very often where get a break like this in between classes, but sometimes it does and it's really helpful. I don't really know how to feel about this. I have to feel into it for a couple weeks and get going before I really have an opinion. Although I was really happy about the lecture this morning, so yeah, I'm hoping that the next one goes just as well, and the one this afternoon goes really well too. It was kind of like a review actually from pharmacology this morning, and I don't seem to have forgotten much, but like I said, because I work in the pharmacy environment, it's not like I don't use any of it for like weeks at a time, which is why work is so helpful right now. Today is our 4 o'clock day. The rest of them are either done at 3 or we have the afternoon off. It's very weird. It's kind of nice, but it's just weird. I'll probably update you guys on what I plan on doing this afternoon. I don't know if I'm gonna have to do much this afternoon. We'll see. Hey everyone, good morning. Happy Tuesday. So I just finished my first class of the day. The next one isn't until 1 o'clock after lunch. So I thought I would come on here and talk about what I'm going to work on for the next couple hours because it's only like quarter to 10. And then talk about this other class that I just finished and how I feel like I'm going to approach it. Okay, so first of all, what I'm going to be working on is actually not the class I just finished. It is the class I had yesterday afternoon. And there are a couple of asynchronous sections that I want to get out of the way. So it's LO1 and then part of LO2. So that we were told will probably take us about 3 hours or so to get through those two sections, which maybe not. Now I actually do have something to do. So we were given this really cool sheet actually for the pharmacy prescription products class. So it's like a summary sheet. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick out stuff that I want on here and then I'm going to make cards off of these sheets, I think, is how I'm going to approach this. I think it might take a little bit of trial and error from the first one. And I have a little bit of lenience, I think, with my first exam because this particular stuff, we did have to know quite a bit of it for our micro class. I feel like there's some leniency and I can see whether I'm actually remembering the stuff that is being tested. Tomorrow's kind of a little bit bulky for stuff. We have a 3 hour orientation for lab and then another class is 2 hours in the afternoon tomorrow. So it's quite a heavy class day. And I'm curious to know how that lab class is gonna be. I think this is gonna be a fairly heavy content, heavy semester. So that's gonna be interesting actually. And I was feeling like that when I was preparing for it last week and going through the content and actually looking at, okay, like what are we actually going to be studying? And yeah, this one's going to be fairly content heavy. And this particular class that I just finished now is going to be very memorization heavy. It's just going to be a matter of how do you approach all of this information that's coming at you all at once when you don't have the as much background with it. I feel like it's easier to recognize it than it is to memorize it, but we'll see how it goes. Like I said, I feel like this first one is going to be like, okay, let's see how well I'm doing at picking out the info, comparing it to it. But like I said, I'm not starting with this sheet right now. I'm going to do this asynchronous class and try to make, I don't know what the best way actually, I was thinking about, like I said, I was thinking about combining the notes and then making summary notes off of that into this, like I did for the last section of 179 last semester that was asynchronous. The first thing that we got into this morning with the products, the prescription products class, was the penicillins after finishing up kind of the intro information. That intro information is like all review, so I don't know if I'm going to have any summary notes on that or not. I haven't decided yet. Maybe just there's one section about like different types of errors that can occur that I might actually do some notes on. I'm not sure exactly how much I'm going to end up doing after class finishes this afternoon, but we'll see. Sorry I didn't update yesterday after I was done, but I really didn't have anything. It was a very easy start, and I feel like now we're kind of getting into the start of the content. So one of the things I forgot to mention with this particular class, you know how I mentioned that in the, well, maybe you didn't, it was kind of late into the video, but when I talked about how one of the courses was kind of set up asynchronous, I was a little confused. So there's only particular sections that are actually set up to be asynchronous. We were actually encouraged to do LO8 and LO9 right away. I don't know whether I'm going to do that. And here's my reasoning for that. So I believe LO8 and LO9 are like on the final. If I do that now, I'm not going to have a hope in heckin' remembering that content when I get to it, unless it's like something that has already been touched in my stuff. So I'm going to start with LO1 and LO2 because those will be the first quit tests or whatever. And then hopefully what I'll do is I'll pencil it in, basically. Hopefully, though, I know that the end of the semester can get a little crazy, but I don't feel like it's a smart idea to cover that content unless I was to make cards on it and then have it to be so that I was consistently looking at it. And maybe that would be the answer to it. I'm not sure, but as of right now, I'm not touching LO8 and LO9 when it's not going to be something I'm tested on until like the end of April. I am about an hour into this now, and it's taking me longer because I'm making notes. But I'm on a really interesting section on pricing of drugs in Canada. I mean, I find this interesting because I hear of so many horror stories from the US about excessive drug pricing, and it makes sense for Canada to have price controls because there are public health drug plans. So there are certain medications that are on provincial formularies that the government pays for. So it would make sense that there's pricing controls. The most interesting part of this, in my opinion, is these pricing caps, basically. So, like, there's pressure on brand name manufacturers to keep their prices not excessive by regulatory agencies. Then there's additional pressure once your medication comes out of patent and there's generics developed. So it's just fascinating to kind of see like the behind the scenes of this, basically. You do need to have a markup to make a profit, but at one point does a markup actually hurt your business because you're putting too much pressure on the consumer to continue to want to buy that product? At some point, you'll just price people out because of the amount of markup that's on it. or the amount of profit that you're making on it and all of that. So I think it's really important to kind of consider that. It's one of the only areas that seem to have caps of some kind. And a lot of this is pressure put on by the government because they don't want to be paying exorbitant amount of prices for their public drug plans, which only makes sense. Hey everyone, good morning and happy Wednesday. So it's orientation day for lab, but that doesn't get started for another hour. So therefore, I'm going to be doing some of more of this asynchronous work for this one class. I got about 2 hours or so in yesterday, and then, well, maybe about 2.5 actually. I have a lot of it to get through yet for the first and second learning outcome. We actually do have this class a little later on, but I'm going to not worry about that. I'll just finish. As long as I get it done before the exam, everything will be good. And so far, it's been pretty straightforward. I was trying to get it done in case I had any questions about the material, but we kind of went over the more harder concepts in class actually already, and it wasn't very hard to follow along with. It's probably because I have pharmacy experience. I probably will end up doing a little bit from 3 to 4 today. Hey everyone, so it's Wednesday afternoon, and I've been done classes for about half an hour now, but I wanted to come on here and just talk a little bit more about some pharmacy technician roles that are kind of different. Now, I'm not saying that assistants can't do some of these things, but it's not quite as common for assistants to be in these roles. Unless they've been an assistant probably for like several years, you're probably not going to see them in these types of roles. And then there are just some that they just can't do because they're not regulated. Pharmacy technicians are vital to pharmacies because they improve the workflow. So if you have good pharmacy technicians, you can improve the efficiency of your pharmacy, which ultimately helps get prescriptions out faster and doing that with high quality customer service, and people really appreciate that kind of a service. So it brings in a lot of people. They can apparently be involved in the hiring process. Now, I don't know how common this would be. I feel like that would probably be on either the HR department itself working with the pharmacy manager more, but maybe the pharmacy manager in some cases might delegate that to a technician, coming up with job requirement, like what you think would be good attributes to have for somebody that you're looking to hire into the pharmacy. I personally feel like if you're looking for a technician, that might be appropriate. If you're looking for or an assistant even, because there's crossover there, but if you're looking for a pharmacist, probably not. Provide trainings, kind of working with new employees and ensuring that they're doing things properly according to procedure and that you're following the regulations at the same time, because as a technician, you know the regulations. If you've just hired someone who's an assistant, they likely won't know the regulations because they're not taught that. You don't need to have any of that type of experience to work in a pharmacy as an assistant. I know a lot of times too that pharmacy technicians often have a little bit more spare time available to help with training new people. And because you're already in the role of you're supervising that person anyways, you probably want to make sure that they're trained properly so that, the responsibility of that falls on you. So it only makes sense you'd be involved in the training process, especially for assistants. Perform record keeping duties. So this is like paperwork and all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, technicians perform. Pharmacy is healthcare. Healthcare is a lot of paperwork, and there's a lot of things that have to be kept track of and all of that. So definitely a technician could do that. Taking on more leadership roles definitely would be something more of a technician would do, just because you have the educational background. You're taught a lot about how pharmacies operate and all of that. So it only makes sense you would take on more leadership roles if that opportunity arises, and then participate in collaboration. So you're collaborating with the pharmacist, you're collaborating with other healthcare professionals, and you're collaborating with the other staff in the pharmacy and even in the store sometimes. If you're not just a standalone pharmacy, you're going to be like working with a bunch of different people and then explaining things to patients. You have to be able to like talk at many different levels to be a technician. And I think that's where the technician role gets really unique too. Just like from what I've learned so far, I feel like the pharmacy technician role is such a unique role in healthcare because you're not just talking with people who you know have the same level of understanding as you do. Like, I think almost all healthcare professionals have interactions with patients probably at some point in their career or in their daily lives. But to have such a different wide range of people that you need to communicate with, I feel is quite unique actually to pharmacy technicians. Just because you're going from, I gotta call the hospital because this prescription is wrong, or I gotta call the clinic because this prescription is wrong, and I gotta talk with the receptionist or whoever's involved. And then I gotta collaborate with the pharmacist on this because I don't know what we can do to substitute this medication because it's not interchangeable or all of that. You know, all of those kind of things, they make for unique opportunities to demonstrate that you actually do have such good knowledge because you're having to communicate at different levels depending on who you're talking to. Hello everyone, happy Friday. Sorry I didn't vlog at all yesterday, but I got a lot done. So I don't have my checklist anymore, but I had a lot to do for like stuff next week, like just reading and all of that. So I just didn't vlog because I thought it was boring. I think this semester is gonna feel a little bit lighter with like in terms of classes itself, but I think it's going to be a lot more heavy content in terms of actual content itself. So I don't know, cautiously optimistic after the first week. This first week was pretty light. There's just a lot of stuff that's happening right now in terms of like stuff we gotta do and all of that. And then with parts of this one course being asynchronous, it's a lot of reading and not my favorite. I don't mind having asynchronous if I can make my own schedule and kind of plan for it, but because I'm still having to manage those classes at the same time, like synchronous stuff at the same time, it hasn't been my favorite. But it's kind of in a transitionary period right now with the way they're doing things. So there's going to be some growing pains. It's about, I don't know, 2:30 in the afternoon right now on Friday, and I just wanted to come on here quickly because I need to rant for a second. I'm getting a little bit just discouraged almost because I feel like there's just so much information in this one part of this course that I'm having to do asynchronously. And because of the amount of information, I'm just concerned that I'm not like absorbing much of it at all. I feel like I'm absorbing some of it, but I probably will, before the exam, have to come back to much of it because I don't know how much I'm going to remember. We've talked about a lot of this stuff in other classes, but it's been like a kind of brief brush over it. It's not really been an in-depth dive like this one seems to be. So instead of complaining about that like I did for anatomy and physiology, I have a feeling that I'm probably going to be feeling that way for a lot of my courses this semester, just as I was saying. It's going to be probably fairly content heavy. I mean, it's not horribly painful material to get through. It just seems to be taking a while to get through it. I hope you have enjoyed this vlog. It's probably getting really long, actually. These weekly vlogs do tend to be actually fairly long. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. And if you're enjoying seeing my journey with this whole thing, be sure to subscribe, hit the like button. Don't forget, if you guys have any questions about IIH or migraines, and my experience with them to reach out in the comments, and I can still make videos if I get questions on those. Most of the time I can answer them in the comments, but if I get something that I feel like is hard to write in a comment, I will definitely do a video on it. But as for now, I think that's it for this one. Thanks for joining me this week, and I hope to see you guys next week. Bye, everyone.